Welcome to Inside Sales Studio and Inside Sales Frontline Q&A. This is a new series that we've been doing. We're on our third session in our webinar Q&A follow-up from the state of coaching and sales. For this one, we're going to talk about one-on-ones. My name is Jen Gergen. I'm Director of Operations for the AA-ISP. I welcome you as well as our speaker, Joe Caprio. Very nice to have you with us yet again.
Likewise.
We've been talking about all these different pieces in the bucket of coaching culture. We've talked about the deal inspection and skill development and personalized coaching, all that. But all that really kind of centers around the one-on-ones. And so can you say a little bit more about more about a one-on-one and what that looks like?
Yeah, it's funny, like a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here is creating a culture of coaching, which involves the frontline manager. It's not enough to have a playbook or to have it like an opinion written down somewhere. It's about how often and how consistently do you get that message in front of the ICs. That's where the change actually has to happen, is at the IC level. So when you look at that layer of management, what do, right? They join a bunch of calls, they help out on deals, they, like sometimes they're pulled into meetings with other departments, but the number one most consistent guaranteed interaction they have with their team of ICs is in a weekly one-to-one. I have yet to meet a single sales team that doesn't do a one-to-one. And so the idea is, if your goal is to get more coaching done and get tighter inspection and get your frontline managers to do more than just be a super AE, then the one-to-one is where you have a lot of control over that, because it's a regular scheduled interaction. And if you could just impact what gets covered in that meeting, then you're actually going to be a world ahead of if you just keep yelling at your managers like, coach more, inspect tighter, like give them an actual program to follow in the one-to-one, and they might actually do it for once.
Okay, let's talk about this slide that we had in the webinar. I think there's some lot of fun stuff going on here.
Yeah, I owe a lot to Matt Cameron, and so I talk about him a lot because I've actually learned from him, and I've bought from him twice. Like, he's been a vendor of mine 2 times, and I've actually sent my frontline managers to his school to learn how to be frontline managers. And y'all might be laughing at me like, isn't that your job? But my job is to get the outcome. My job is to get the final number done. How I do that is up to me, and I lean on guys like that. And so what he does actually is he scripts out a one-to-one. He interviews me and he says, what do you need covered in here? And he teaches my managers how to do that. And then he actually produces an agenda in a Google Doc that they can use as a roadmap. And so I've gone through this exercise with Matt twice now. And I know he's doing this for a lot of like really fast growing companies. And so I have some insight into what I've learned from working with him that I can share with the team here.
That's great. I'd love to see a better example of a roadmap.
Yeah. So basically, if we go to the next slide here, I've kind of listed out like a real basic agenda for your one-to-one. And so you can link to these reports, whether, you're an Inside Squared customer like I am, or if you just use Salesforce reports. The idea is you give the manager and a rep a single document that they just copy every week, and they cover the same questions over and over and over again. And that way, both the manager and the seller, they realize that there's consistency to this, and they have to prepare, because I can't show up for the 3rd week in a row and say, I don't know, to the same question. And so they understand that it's kind of like a working dynamic that gets repeated over and over again, and they will start progressing more deals, and they will find a way to get to everything on the agenda, use it over and over again. And so in the beginning of a one-to-one, you want to quickly check in, like, what's your forecast compared to goal? If you're on track, great. If not, let me check your pipeline. If you're on track, great. If not, let me check your activity levels, right? And so you kind of do this like check down list. Are you going to hit your number? If not, is it a pipeline problem? If not, is it an activity level problem, which should be the easiest thing to fix. But that's the first thing you want to do on a weekly basis. Do you have enough to eat here? And if not, what are you doing about it? After that, you kind of want to get into some housekeeping items, like your CRM's out of date, or like you haven't filled in these reports. Like, every sales team, unfortunately, has a lot of non-selling things that they owe, and just don't spend more than 5 minutes on this. Don't let them fix it in the meeting. Just tell them action items are overdue on, and then send them out with their homework on that. But it's just part of it. Like, this is your weekly interaction. So the third thing we get into, go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say, just speaking of that, like getting into the weeds and keeping things on task, and this is even just like a separate skill, but do you have advice on how managers can do that without basically shushing? You know what I mean? Like the idea of the one-on-one is, so now I'm feeling empowered to bring up things that I'm feeling challenged about. Clearly I'm aware of an agenda and I want to follow the agenda, but like, how do you maintain control of that conversation as a manager and still offer an ear and available time for them for the questions and the things that they do want to talk about?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think the answer is time boxing, and so the idea is giving them a roadmap. So in the, general hygiene and housekeeping, this is our opportunity for me to share with you things you're overdue on, and for you to share with me things that you have a question on or you're unhappy about. But this is 10 minutes of our one-to-one. And then anything that's heavier than that, we're going to find more time to talk about after, or we're going to do it asynchronously over Slack.
So
But
really, it's just letting everybody know about the roadmap. It's not just having a roadmap and controlling the conversation, but everybody should be aware and be clear about how the time is going to be spent in the agenda.
exactly. It's about consistency of behavior leading to more efficient interactions with your people and more effective because they're having the interactions you want them to have versus spending an hour in a one-to-one complaining about
Yeah,
territory.
right.
Territories are getting revised on Jan 1. And so it's about just earmarking enough time to get the topics out there. And then you have to be a human being and continue to
Yes.
have these conversations ongoing. But the one-to-one is for this topic, not that topic. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
and it's so important too for like particularly people like myself. So it's like I've run all these different roles, and certainly as director of operations, I wear a lot of different hats. And so sometimes I'm leading, and sometimes I'm listening, and I am ops to the Duke. Oh my God, I'm process, I'm spreadsheets, I'm detail, and so I get into the weeds, and I see them just get glazed over and like that's not what this is for. And so some of that is just it's so important. So I know this seems so basic, so I appreciate you going through it again. I'm sorry. Please pick up where you were.
Yeah, no, Jen, I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked. But there is one point that I wanted to make that I thought was really, really important here on number 3, which is
Mhm.
when you get to the actual deal inspection. And Jen, we did a session on inspection, but the reality is this: your managers, if they don't have this like roadmap in place, if they don't have this checklist, what they're gonna do is they're either gonna ask the rep, what are you working on? What do you think you can close this month? Which means the rep is now dictating the one-to-one, which I love sales reps, but that's not what you want here. Okay. So that's if you let the rep decide. Sometimes the manager might just sort the pipeline by biggest to smallest and just go attack the biggest deals, which is great unless they're now wasting time on unwinnable deals when they were like, middle opportunities that were winnable. And so what you actually want to have your manager do is touch every opportunity. And I mean it, like literally touch every single opportunity. And you can kind of sort it based on what they're looking for in those opportunities. So for early stage opportunities, I want to know, what does the customer need? Whether it's the metrics from Medic or the need from bank or whatever it might be. Why do they want to do business with us, or why might they want to do business with us? Because you know which use cases or problems are more winnable for your sales team. So early stage pipeline, I want to know what they want, and I want to know who we're working with, and do we have an ability to get more people involved? Single threading is the number one loss reason early in opportunities. So early stage pipeline, here are the 8 opportunities you've created since we last spoke. What are they shopping for? Who are you talking to there? Mid funnel, this is when they start getting into like some form of evaluation. So for me, I think your seller should be aware of what blockers exist, where they are in the competition on that deal, and then have they started talking about paper process or not. And so here it's like, here are the people that are evaluating our software. What challenges have they run into, right? Is it a competitive deal or not? And have you started talking about procurement yet? And that's what I'm looking for in mid-funnel deals. And then late funnel, it's again like, how clear are you on paper process, and what are the procurement roadblocks that you've uncovered? And if they can't answer those questions, I think we're good here, then you have a problem. But again, it's about not letting the rep decide what deals you inspect or having the managers hope to inspect the right one. It's about hitting every deal with a high level question and then going deep on the ones that require it.
Okay, that's good. Great.
And one thing we don't do as managers, we never inspect lost deals, and no rep wants to talk about it. But how many deals do you think your reps are walking away from early when maybe a second set of eyes would spot an opportunity that the rep missed? So if you don't do a closed lost inspection, and at a minimum, kind of agree, okay, we can't win that deal now. Who's reviving it? Right? Is that a BR? Is that the AE? Are we just counting on the buyer to come back when they're ready? So why did we lose that deal? Can we fix it? And if not, like, who's going to own the account moving forward? And then to our other point, Jen, you'll round out your one-to-one with a little micro coaching session. So elect one topic for each one of your sellers. And then in the last 10 minutes of your one-to-one, just review that topic, whether it's talking about it, watching a call, doing a role play, whatever. Earmark the last 10 minutes to develop some kind of skill and stick with the same skill for multiple weeks in a row.
Nice. Like a series. I love it. That's good. Great. I mean, I think the closed lost inspection thing is huge, and I don't think enough people are doing it for sure. So that alone is really great feedback. Man, any final things that we can close out this excellent little series with? I'm just so excited. We got one more left, but anything on one-on-ones you want to leave us with here?
I don't think so. I think we're nailing it, Jen.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you on the next one.